After all, we do have the biggest party of the year on the way. We have an all-star lineup on the way here to Times Square, and we have the man at the center of it all. And by it all, I mean all, leading the countdown to the end of the year. Mogul, host, producer of Dick Clark's New Year's Rockin' Eve with Ryan Seacrest 2013.
Good morning.
He is here.
Thank you for that intro.
Indeed. We pick 8 things we can say about you from the 25. I want to start, though. It's Dick Clark's Rockin' Eve. And, boy, this is going to be the first year in forever that he doesn't ring it in with us. How odd is that going to be for you?
I mean, surreal is probably the most appropriate word. You think back 40 years ago, even before I was born, he started the tradition with a camera, a light, and a microphone. And he carried that tradition for so many years. And, you know, as a fan of television, as a fan of broadcasting as a kid, I not only watched him because I would be home when my parents would be out, but also I used to watch him and study how he hosted these shows. So to be standing there in Times Square years ago with him was really special for me personally.
And you know, it's what I've always loved about your story is that you did study. You saw professionally what you wanted to be, but then you also got to get to know him as a friend, as a mentor. What has he meant to you?
He's been. You know, when you're in school, you have a guidance counselor. He was kind of like my guidance counselor as I was growing up through the business. But he'd always make you feel, I think when you watched Dick Clark on television, you'd feel like you were his good friend. And he was like that in person as well. And I think that was one of the most amazing things about how he could host shows.
And so here we go. And it's going to be the first without him. But you do have something of a star-studded cast to help ring in that year. What are we talking?
We'll reflect on Dick at the beginning, and we'll show some great moments over the years. But then we've got an incredible lineup. Just before midnight, we've got a superstar by the name of Taylor Swift.
Oh yes.
So she's having quite a career and quite a year, breaking all kinds of sales records this year. So we've got her headlining outside live. We'll have Pitbull, and we'll have Fergie hosting from the West Coast. Jenny McCarthy's going to be here in Times Square, and she ends up kissing a lot of people, so you never know what.
Okay, because we had it. Can we see it again? Jenny McCarthy, a year ago, finds one of our New York's finest, bravest.
That actually looks like more than a kiss to me.
That really does. I think they're married in some countries now.
So we're expecting. Well, we don't know what to expect
from her. That's the thing. You really don't. I mean, it must be sort of fun.
Yeah. I mean, you know, you've got 1 million+ people outside, and you just kind of cover it like a big sporting event, and you're not always quite sure how it's going to go down.
And Fergie, again, you mentioned on the West Coast. What a portion of the program?
A portion of the program from the West Coast. She'll have a bunch of stars out there as well. 2 of my favorites, Flo Rida and Pitbull. 2 of your favorites too?
No, I'm telling you, it's like you look at the roster. You wouldn't even know how to slot them.
We actually try about 6 months out to project who's going to have the best charting music towards the end of the year, and that's kind of how we try to book it.
Speaking of music, some of the new judges on the American Idol, including Keith and Nicki Minaj, Mariah Carey. The dynamic. I mean, you've seen it now.
Listen. Between Keith and Randy, these two are just. I mean, the claws come out with these two, you know? The dynamic is diverse. I mean, that's the best way to say it. You've got a legend in Mariah Carey, and some of those contestants come in and they've looked up to her, and they've wanted to be her for so many years. Nicki Minaj, who brings a special currency to the show as well, and Keith from you know, his Nashville roots, Australian via Nashville, and Randy, who's been there for a long time. So I think for me as the host, it's going to be a fun circus to host as we get into it.
Every base covered. Before we go, how do you do this? Like, how do you do this? I have one gig, and it exhausts me. I mean, you have all the others. Seriously.
They're pretty easy, Josh. It's like, welcome back. Take a look at this. We'll be back after the break. Here's what do you think of that singer? If you'd like to vote, call 1-866-IDOLS-01.
And then I do this.
I mean,
I do this.
If I can't get that done, I've got problems. But
it certainly beats working for a living.
I'm grateful. You know, I like the pace, and I love doing it, and I'm grateful for the opportunities that American Idol's, you know, changed my life, and so many of us who've been on the show.
Well, it's New Year's Rockin' Eve. I don't think I have to tell you that it is, in fact,
Please tune
New Year's Eve with Ryan Seacrest 2013.
We will be there live
Monday night.